The 2010s marked a new era for the league, with the NBA having seen more changes in them than any time before. The players drafted and stars chosen would be no exception. And so, after some of the significant failures from the 2000s, the teams were determined that they were going to use their number one pick better than ever. And this would lead them to drafting the most unique set of players ever. Let's figure out what happened to every number one pick from the 2010s.
The Washington Wizards select John Wall from the University of Kentucky.
We start off the decade with the story of grit, grind, and resilience. It's a true from zero to hero story. Imagine doing your first steps in life with your father in jail, your brother in prison, and even you yourself getting charged for breaking into a house and still managing to reach stardom. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's precisely the life story of John Wall. A rough childhood down in North Carolina made him to a troublemaker who was nearly caught up in a career of crime. Because of this, he would end up playing for 3 different high schools and even have to redo his sophomore year during his time at Raleigh High School. However, on the basketball side of things, he was him. At the end of his senior year in high school, where he averaged a near 20-point triple-double, he was seen as the consensus number 1 point guard in the nation. A lot of scouts were expecting him to declare for the 2009 draft, as he was 19 at the time and had a lot of hype surrounding him. Instead, he opted to spend a year in Kentucky to give him the opportunity to clean his image and set his head on his shoulders. And guys, in just his first game there, he did this.
The tie, and now Wall for the win!
That would mark the beginning of a life-changing year for Wall. The criminal charges against him dropped. He averaged a 4.0 GPA during his summer semester, and he would continue to excel with Kentucky's team. He even broke numerous school records, like the single-game assist record for the team. At that point, Wall had the entire basketball world at his feet. He shined on the court and managed to reform his entire persona. And Reebok would even sign him to a shoe deal even before he got drafted. Obviously, the Wizards picked him up with their first pick, and the mayor of Washington even declared that day to become John Wall Day. And when everyone thought that the hype couldn't get any bigger, he would do the unthinkable. In just his 3rd game in the NBA, Wall had 29 points, 13 assists, and wait for it, 9 steals in a game, equaling the franchise steals record. He would continue playing better and better with every passing season, even finishing 2nd in the Rookie of the Year voting behind Blake Griffin. This would be the first of 10 seasons of continued individual success with the Wizards. He set up his legacy there as one of the best players in the history of the franchise, having been selected with them to 5 All-Star games, an All-Defensive team, and an All-NBA team. He is even their all-time assists and steals leader. Wall shined time and time again on the court with numerous clutch moments, like the iconic 3-pointer to beat the Celtics in Game 6 of the East Semis.
To Wall. Working against Bradley for 3. John Wall!
His charismatic persona and electric playstyle made him an instant fan favorite and made everyone tune into Washington games. Unfortunately though, his hyper-athletic game would take its toll on his body, and injuries would start piling up on him. He would get traded to the Rockets after just signing a 4-year, $170 million contract, which would turn out to be one of the biggest fleeces in NBA history depending on how you see it. To give you a small idea of how this went, he played 40 games over the first 3 years of his contract before getting bought out by Houston. Just last season, he tried to revive his career by signing with the Clippers, but he had missed so much playing time that when he came back, he just wasn't the same anymore. His great personality also helped Wall get loved by the general public. He is genuinely a good human being and does a lot of philanthropy work. I know you guys remember the time when he just couldn't hold his tears in after learning that a 6-year-old girl that used to attend his games died from cancer. Not only that, but he has also received awards thanking him for his work to help the community. Like when he was honored with the Stuart B. McKinney Award for donating over $400,000 to help end homelessness. His charitable work doesn't end there, as he also runs the John Wall Family Foundation, which specializes in helping at-risk youth through mentorship and education. He really was a sensation on and off the court.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select Kyrie Irving from Duke University.
While most of us see basketball as just a sport, some individuals transcend the status and view it as an art form. Kyrie is one of those, as he not only considers himself as an artist on the court,
new canvas, new side on the court. It is literally just a hardwood floor with lines on it.
but even has other players also believing the same thing.
Kyrie he's very artsy.
There really isn't anyone as unique as Irving. Even before stepping foot in the league, the whole nation had its eyes glued on its guard prodigy. He He excelled in everything that you'd want from a player in that position, from passing to ball handling to even making his shots at a very high efficiency. He was the complete package. And what's even more impressive was how easy he made the flashiest plays look. His immaculate technique and crazy explosiveness made him a threat as soon as he was near the rim. At that time, everyone knew that he was destined for greatness. So much so, that even though an injury would sideline him for most of his only year in college, he was still the consensus #1 pick come draft night. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted him with their #1 overall pick. He would immediately fulfill all the stardom hopes that were placed on him by winning the Rookie of the Year award and then being the best player in his star-studded Team USA scrimmage in just his rookie offseason. His sophomore season would not be any different, as he would earn his first All-Star selection and cement himself as one of the best players in the league. This would earn him a spot on the 2014 US team that won the FIBA World Cup. And there, in a squad filled with stars such as Steph Curry, James Harden, D. Rose, Kyrie would be the one to shine the most and bring home the tournament MVP trophy. That offseason was also the one where the Cavaliers brought back LeBron James and traded for Kevin Love, making the 14-15 season the first one in which Cleveland was actually a serious contender for the title. The Big Three would prove so dominant that they would reach the finals in just their first year together. Now, unfortunately, in just his first finals game, Kyrie would sustain a knee injury that would sideline him for the entirety of the series, with the Golden State Warriors eventually winning it all. This made a lot of analysts question the legitimacy of the Warriors' win that year, with the Cavs pushing it to 6 games even without their superstar guard, all while also missing Kevin Love. But what do you guys think? Do you think Cleveland would have won if Kyrie and Love didn't get injured? Let me know what you think in the comments. Following that injury, Kyrie would even miss half of the 15-16 season, depriving him of an all-star selection that year. Still, he would steadily start playing into shape, eventually getting the Cavs to another finals appearance before finding themselves in a 3-1 deficit against the best regular season team in history. From that point on, the rest is history. In the last 3 games in that series, he would average 30 points per game while shooting more than 50% from 3. He would even be the one to hit that iconic 3-point shot over Steph Curry to finish the series.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
The following season, he would yet again get to the finals, but with KD's addition to the Warriors, the Cavs were just no match. It was at that point that Kyrie decided that he had enough of being in LeBron's shadow, and that he wanted to lead his own team. So, following their finals loss, he requested a trade. From there on out though, it would only go downhill for Kai. His first season with the Celtics was cut due to injuries, and he would leave Boston after a disappointing playoff elimination in his second year there to join KD on the Nets. The super team experiment would also turn into a complete failure, despite James Harden coming to join them, as a number of controversies surrounding Kyrie Irving would come their way. The first big one was obviously his anti-vax stance, leading him to miss a big chunk of a season before finally being allowed to play. And then we have his anti-Semitic talks, which led him to getting suspended for more than 5 games before more problems with his front office would rise up, leading him to request a trade, which ended up with him landing in Dallas. And despite them missing the playoffs that year, a lot of fans are waiting impatiently to see what this duo is going to do in their first full year together. Away from the court, Kyrie is a basketball icon and knows how to make his way around town. He's been a guest star on Family Guy and the Disney series Kicking It, and we can't talk about Kyrie without mentioning his iconic Uncle Drew character from the movie with the same name. He's a true legend of the game and a guy who's not shy to show his true opinions off the court.
The New Orleans Hornets select Anthony Davis.
From one LeBron sidekick to another, we now focus on the big man from Kentucky, the one and only, the Brow Anthony Davis. From very early on, AD showed his dominance to the world. We're talking about a guy who averaged 32 points, 22 rebounds, and 7 blocks per game over his entire senior year in high school, easily earning him the #1 high schooler rank in the nation. His time in college with Kentucky was no different. In his one and only season with the Wildcats, AD showed unprecedented superiority on both individual and team levels, as he carried his college to an NCAA championship, all while raffling every single Player of the Year award for himself. His historical performance didn't end there, as he beat most single game and single season block records for Kentucky, and even set the records for most blocks recorded in a single SEC season. After declaring for the 2012 draft, he would get picked up as the #1 overall pick by the New Orleans Pelicans, who were hoping to make him the new cornerstone of the franchise following Chris Paul's departure a couple of years ago. He would even get selected for Team USA and win an Olympic gold medal with them before even stepping foot in the NBA. He then had a pretty encouraging start in the league, finishing second in the Rookie of the Year race behind Damian Lillard. That offseason though, AD would add on more than 10 pounds of muscle, creating the monster in the paint that we know today. as in just his sophomore season, he would lead the league in blocks and earn a selection to the All-Star game, the first of 8 consecutive selections for him. During his time in New Orleans, AD would get the chance to fill out his resume and win numerous individual accolades. I'm talking about all-defensive and all-NBA first-team selections, as well as winning the All-Star MVP trophy in 2017. Still, he would not get the team success that he longed for, and he understood that he would never get it with the Pelicans. So, in 2019, Davis formally requested a trade from his franchise. And yeah, he also made sure to make the demand public to put as much pressure as possible on the organization. He would get fined $50,000 for that, but it would ultimately get the trade that he desired so much. Anthony would then find himself in LA, teamed up with LeBron and ready to take on the whole league. And that's exactly what they did. The duo didn't waste a single second, and so they won a ring in just their first season together. And while LeBron was the finals MVP winner, there's no denying the role that AD had in this run, as he averaged 28 points and 10 rebounds while shooting 57% from the field and shooting 38% from the three. The man was unstoppable. Just look at this shot against the Nuggets in the playoffs.
He puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony!
AD was a living cheat code. From that point on, Davis would mainly just battle injuries, missing a lot of playing time and earning the nickname Street Clothes. Still, there's no denying of the lasting legacy that the Brow created, as he was even selected as a top 75 player by the NBA.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select Anthony Bennett of Toronto, Canada, and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Next up, we have the first Canadian player to be selected in the #1 spot in the NBA draft, Anthony Bennett himself. He's easily one of the most talked about #1 picks in history, but unfortunately for all the wrong reasons. His NBA story is a tale of everything that can go wrong when you start up with so much hope placed on your shoulders. What usually happens with #1 picks who don't pan out is that even if they don't start off well, they show just enough potential for the team to continue to have hope and let them develop for a few years. Not for Anthony Bennett. This guy missed his first 16 field goal attempts and would only score his first bucket in his 5th NBA game. At that point, it seemed like the entire NBA would know that this was going to be a story for the ages. Just not a good one. Every single media outlet was making it a living nightmare for Anthony. Bleacher Report would even compare him to an undrafted rookie trying to win a spot in the league. The worst thing is that him getting picked at that spot is more of a sign of the Cavaliers' front office incompetence than anything else, as even the most optimistic mock drafts had him as the 3rd pick. And yeah, we also made a video about that draft, so check it out if you're interested. And not just the 3rd pick, there were other mock drafts having him go at 5th, as no lottery pick should be playing like this. But hey, maybe the guy just had more pressure on his shoulders than he anticipated. I mean, Bennett was never really under that much scrutiny before, as he was only the 7th ranked player in the nation during high school, and his college time would be cut short by a series of shoulder injuries. So he would opt to just ditch his last 3 years and declare for the draft. It's true that he did have quite a promising physical build, but this has never been enough to be the first guy called in the draft. Anyways, and much to Cleveland's disappointment, he would only spend 4 seasons in the league, and he would get traded to another team in every single season. He would end up being the first #1 pick of this decade to not get an extension after his rookie contract, and he would soon find himself packing his things to go play abroad. As a member of the Turkish team, Fenerbahce, he would even win the EuroLeague, though he had a very secondary role in the squad as he only averaged 1 point per game during his appearances. His bad luck would follow him even after the NBA, as Bennett was signed for the Puerto Rican team Baloncesto Superior Nacional in 2021, but he would be waived just 2 months later to make room for another player. Unfortunately for Anthony, his name is forever etched into the history books, and though he would probably like people to stop talking about him, his tale will probably be told for years to come.
The Cleveland Cavaliers select Andrew Wiggins from Toronto and the University of Kansas.
1.7%. These were the odds Cleveland had before the draft in order to get the #1 pick. And to the general surprise, they would actually get it, making it the 3rd time in 4 years that they would draft the #1 player. And they would decide to use it on another Canadian player. This time they drafted the Canadian sensation Andrew Wiggins. Everyone saw him as another piece in the new young core that Cleveland was building. Well, that was until they packaged him with Anthony Bennett and traded him to Minnesota for Kevin Love, making Wiggins the second #1 player in history to be traded before ever playing for the team that drafted him. And in case you were wondering who the first was, it was none other than King star Chris Webber, who got drafted by the Magic in '93 before immediately getting traded to the Warriors in exchange for Penny Hardaway. This decision at the time was met with skepticism because on one hand, LeBron just came back to Cleveland, and Kevin Love's trade was a clear win-now move. And on the other hand, Andrew Wiggins had so much hype around him that some fans felt like the Cavs were letting a potential generational player go away. This is a guy who was compared to Michael Jordan himself ever since his high school days, and so much so that he was actually nicknamed Maple Jordan. The 6'7" wing was a hyper-athletic monster that dominated at the high school level, winning National Player of the Year awards and being the #1 rated player in the country. His 40-inch vertical would get him compared to Vince Carter on a lot of pre-draft profiles. And to make it short, everyone saw him succeeding. And he would actually start off his career pretty strong by winning the Rookie of the Year award. And for the next 5 seasons that followed for him in Minnesota, he would become a 20-point-per-night type of guy. The problem is that he was not a winning player, always crumbling in the big moments. And even that 20-point average that I talked about, well, it came at less than 45% from the field. His only playoff appearance at the time was in the 17-18 season when the Timberwolves got carried by Jimmy Butler. And in his first playoff series of his career, Wiggins would crumble under the pressure and seeing his scoring average drop to 15 points a game. In 2020, he would get dealt to the Warriors in a move that many didn't understand. A lot of analysts were expecting the Warriors to trade him again immediately, especially because people thought that they were really just trying to get rid of D'Angelo Russell. But that never happened. What we got instead was a totally new version of Wiggins, making better decisions on the court, and most importantly for him, he was not asked to be a #1 guy anymore. He just had to do his role and do it well. The following season was one where Andrew showed everyone a new version of the Maple Jordan, as he averaged 17 points a game on 40% from 3. He would also get a spot on the All-Star team for the first time in his career, as he would be a starter in the West. Now, this selection was met with a lot of criticism, since Wiggins got significantly carried by the fan base of K-pop star Bam Bam, who asked his fans to vote for him. Still, Andrew didn't listen to the noise and just focused on his game. And a few months later, he would show why he deserved to get selected for that game. Because in that postseason, the Warriors got a pretty deep run. So deep, actually, that they got to the finals and even won it all. And Wiggins was more than an integral part of it. Andrew was considered by many to be the second best player on the team behind Curry. After all, in the finals, he led the Warriors in rebounds, blocks, and was second in scoring. This changed the league's entire perception of him, even netting him a new $109 million contract with the Warriors. He would miss quite a bit of the following season though, as he would opt to stay on his father's side, who was battling a very serious illness. Overall, it's a great redemption story for a guy that some people were starting to consider a bust, before he turned everything around.
The Minnesota Timberwolves select Karl Anthony Towns from the University of Kentucky.
From the Dominican Republic, we have Wiggins' teammate during his Minnesota years, Karl Anthony Towns, making him the third #1 pick to play for the Wolves in the span of just 2 seasons. Along with our 2 Canadian legends, Wiggins and Anthony Bennett. The 7-foot center showed his first signs of greatness in high school by carrying his team to win 3 state championships. He would quickly distinguish himself as one of the big names in his class and attract scouts' attention by recording 2 quadruple doubles in his senior year. What made Cat so unique was that, despite his size and height, he had the finesse and skill that a guard would have. He was everywhere on the court, shouldering both offensive and defensive tasks. Seeing that they needed a center for their new core that they were forming, the Timberwolves did not hesitate and took him with their first overall pick in the 2015 draft. His rookie year would be one for the ages, as he averaged an 18-point, 10-rebound double-double throughout the whole year, earning him every single Rookie of the Month award in the Western Conference, as well as unanimously being voted as Rookie of the Year. Minnesota's future was looking bright, as their young core comprised of the last 2 Rookie of the Years. Cat would continue his success, setting the record for most points scored in a season in Wolves history as just a sophomore in the league. The following season would see the addition of Jimmy Butler to the roster, and so the newly formed Big Three, composed of him, Cat, and Wiggins, would thrive in the league. Together, they would lead Minnesota to a 47-win season, and most importantly, their first playoff appearance since 2004. Towns absolutely dominated everyone during the season, leading the league in double-doubles and scoring a franchise record of 56 points on March 28, 2018. This would get him selected not only to the All-Star team, but also to an All-NBA team at the end of the season. But his first playoff appearance would end in just 5 games, despite him averaging 15 points and 13 rebounds, as Minnesota was just no match for the Harden-led Rockets. That offseason, the Wolves would end up choosing Cat as their new franchise player, and they gave him a $190 million max contract and traded away Butler. He would confirm his status that following season by earning another All-Star selection, though he would fail to get his team to the playoffs. From 2019 onwards though, life would get weird for Karl. Now, don't get me wrong, he still continued to shine on the court, and he did earn another All-Star selection, won the 3-point contest, and dropped 60 points over the Spurs in 2022, setting another new franchise record. But at the same time, he would battle quite a lot of injuries, as he played only in 35 games during the 1920 season and in just 29 games this last season. Even away from the court, his life has just been a series of constant struggles, as he lost 7 family members, including his own mother in the pandemic. Not only that, but in the span of 1 year, he would get into 2 car accidents. In the offseason, he got hit by a drunk driver, but that was nothing compared to when a semi-truck nearly killed him in 2019. This could have been not only career-ending, but also life-threatening, as Cat himself said that he had a 5% chance of making it out alive, and was lucky that he even hit that 5% mark. Despite all of this, Carl continues smiling and bringing joy to millions, never failing to make people laugh during his entertaining live streams. A guy who truly deserves more luck in his life.
The Philadelphia 76ers select Ben Simmons from Melbourne, Australia, and Louisiana State University.
As random as this sounds, we now have our second Melbourne player of the video, Ben Simmons. And in case you were wondering who the first one was, well, it was no other than Kyrie Irving himself. You know, scouts and media analysts are always quick to compare potential prospects to all-time greats. And that makes sense, as this only brings them more viewership. But when you have Magic Johnson himself calling you the best all-around player since LeBron James, despite still being a college player, then you know that you're something special. And Ben deserved every single ounce of praise that he got at that time. This basketball machine led his high school to 3 consecutive national championships and won every single Player of the Year award as a senior. He was soon the #1 high school player in the country, getting offers from every single big basketball program. He would choose LSU, playing only 1 season there before declaring for the draft. And what a season that was, as Ben led every single major statistical category for the team, showing his out-of-the-world versatility and earning him a first overall pick status. And it would be the Philadelphia 76ers who would have the pleasure of adding him to their roster. Now, Ben would miss his entire first season after suffering a foot injury during a team scrimmage, and the world would have to wait an entire year to finally see him start off his season. And the wait was worth the while. Remember those claims that Magic made? Well, trust me, Simmons didn't waste any time proving them right, as he recorded a triple-double in just his 4th NBA game, a feat that no one has done in the last 50 years. He would be an instrumental part in the Sixers' 56-win season and earn himself a well-deserved Rookie of the Year title. Not only that, but Ben knew when to step up his game, recording a triple-double in Game 4 of the first round, making him the first rookie to record one in the playoffs since a certain Magic Johnson. But no, the 6'10 Australian wouldn't stop there, and he would continue his climb in the NBA world. In the next couple of years, he would prove not only to be one of the league's best defenders, but also one of the best players in it, period. And he would get the allocates to show for it: All-Star selections, an All-NBA selection, and 2 All-Defensive First-Team selections. I mean, have you ever seen someone locking down Giannis like this? He was one of the blossoming stars of the league. But behind this, 2 problems were slowly emerging. First, his absolute lack of shooting, which made his game totally predictable when he was outside the 3-point line. And secondly, his apparent confidence issues. This would accumulate in 2021, when in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference second round, Ben would pass out an open shot while he was just under the rim. The Sixers only had a 2-point deficit, but after this play, they just wouldn't recover from it, with Joel Embiid pointing out in a post-game interview that it was the reason that they lost. From there on out, the relationship between Ben and the team would completely be broken, and he would sit out the entirety of the following season to demand a trade. And even after getting traded to the Nets for Harden, a series of back injuries and mental problems would lead him away from the court for quite some time. The fall from grace for the All-Star was apparent, but a few offseason clips that have been going around show quite a bit of promise for the upcoming season. But who are we kidding? Every offseason, he's always posting a video of him dropping buckets from the perimeter. But what do you guys think? Could Ben potentially get back to the level that he was at? Let me know what you think in the comments below.
The Philadelphia 76ers select Markelle Fultz from the University of Washington.
The Sixers, the processors, were quite a big part of NBA history, as their egregious and apparent losses would still be one of the reasons that Adam Silver would officially ban blatant tanking in the league. Still, you gotta admit that it did work, as this would be the 2nd year in a row where the first overall pick would go to Philly. And with that, they would draft another ultra-versatile player, but this time it would be the 6'4 guard Markelle Fultz. He made headlines when at just 17 years old, he dominated the Under-18 FIBA Americas Championship, winning gold for the USA and earning himself an MVP title in it. With his addition to the team, the 76ers were finally ready to start contending and leave the tanking behind them. But the thing is, they needed Markelle to become a win-now type of player. And unfortunately for them, history would see things differently. As just before his rookie summer league, Fultz would get injured and only end up playing 40 games over his first 2 seasons. Not only that, but his injury had also evolved into a thoracic outlet syndrome, causing problems in his nervous system and ultimately affecting his shooting motion. This would be enough reason for the Sixers to trade him to the Magic, as they just didn't have the time to wait for a player like this to get back into shape. And from 2020 to 2022, these injury problems would continue as Markelle would suit up for less than 30 games in his 2-year span. Luckily, there seems to be a bit of hope, as Fultz appears to have come back into shape this last season, showing great promise on both the offensive and defensive end, averaging 16 points and 6 assists per game along with pretty good defense. While he might never reach the star status that was promised to him, I can definitely see him thriving in the league for years and years to come as a solid role player.
The Phoenix Suns select DeAndre Ayton from Nassau, Bahamas, and the University of Arizona.
Imagine getting drafted with the #1 overall pick by a team from the state where you played in both high school and college. Well, in the history of the NBA, this dream is a reality for one individual, and that's DeAndre Ayton. The 7-foot center from the Bahamas was a sensation from day one, first in California's AAU circuit, where he averaged a 16-point and 13-rebound double-double, then in his 2 years with Hillcrest Academy in Arizona, where he would also team up with the future #2 pick in the same draft, Marvin Bagley Jr., and together, they would carry the team to success, winning the Grind Session World Championship. But don't be fooled, because it was Ayton doing the heavy lifting, as he averaged nearly 30 points, 18 rebounds, and 4 blocks. This would earn him the #1 center spot in the country and make every single major college fight for him. Still, he would choose to stay in Arizona and play with the Wildcats. As just a freshman, he would cruise through the Pac-12 tournament and carry his team to a win in it with a historic 32-point, 18-rebound performance in the championship game. He would not only win Freshman of the Year, but also Pac-12 Player of the Year, beating every other player older than him. This would be enough to convince him to declare for the draft, as he was seen as one of the top prospects in the upcoming class. Still, there was a small debate going on as to whether he should be the #1 pick or if Phoenix should take Luka Doncic. For the Suns, the choice was clear, as they not only needed a young and promising center to pair up with their star guard Devin Booker, but they also couldn't pass up on the opportunity to pick up an Arizona fan favorite in Ayton. In Phoenix, he would quickly become one of the most polarizing players on the team. On one side, Ayton proved that his potential was even bigger than anyone had planned. He would even get praised by the Joker as being one of the centers that gave him the most problems. He would obviously be with Devin Booker and Chris Paul, part of the big three that led Phoenix to the finals in 2021, with him notably making his iconic buzzer beater alley-oop to seal the win against the Clippers.
Crowder looking, throws it alley-oop. Oh! Ayton puts it down.
And soon thereafter, the Suns even matched the $170 million offer sheet that he got from the Pacers. On the other hand though, DeAndre would show that his only priority in life was himself. He didn't really care about team instructions, and he got into numerous arguments with the Suns front office about events like him staying up until 3 a.m. in the middle of the season to play video games, or sometimes showing clear disinterest in the game and not playing with as much energy as he should. The rift would eventually grow so much that both parties would show a very public interest in them wanting to be separated from one another. This would culminate to DeAndre Ayton getting traded to the Blazers this offseason, and he would very clearly express how happy he was to be in a new franchise that respected him and how he was ready to give everything to them. Anyways, I just can't wait to see his new beginning in this upcoming season.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke University.
Out of any player that I talked about in this video, no player had the same amount of hype as Zion Williamson had before getting drafted into the NBA. I know this is just free speech, but this guy, I think, was the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. I'm not joking when I say Zion was a national sensation. It was something way bigger than just stats, as his highlights were everywhere. I'm telling you, you couldn't spend a day as a basketball fan without seeing his name mentioned somewhere. As just a junior in high school, he was getting praise from NBA legends like Steph Curry and appearing on magazine covers, even with Drake himself repping the jersey of the young prospect. Every single game that Zion played was an event in itself. You never knew if you were going to watch another top 10 dunk of the week or see the physical beast dominate everyone and drop a 50-point game. Now, this would get colleges nearly fighting to get him, as he received 16 Division I offers, and he would end up choosing Duke to play for Coach K. There, he would continue building upon his reputation, raffling most ACC awards from Freshman Player of the Year to Player of the Year, all the way to selections in the all-defensive and all-freshman teams. During the NCAA tournament, the CBS broadcast even had a camera that constantly only filmed Zion, to try to give people their fill of the beast. Pause. He would then declare for the draft. And with the Pelicans having just traded their franchise star Anthony Davis, there was no decision more obvious than to draft Zion Williamson to take over his place. The whole world held their breath for his debut, and they would only get that in January as he tore his meniscus during preseason. And the wait was worth it, as he would put on a show for everyone, even going 4 of 4 from three-point range. Still, he would only play 24 games that season, killing any hope that he had to win Rookie of the Year. In just his sophomore season, he would make the big jump that everyone was waiting for him to do, averaging 27 points on more than 60% shooting, making it one of the most efficient seasons of all time, and earning him an all-star selection. Unfortunately, his diet and lifestyle caused him to gain a lot of weight the following offseason, which led to a number of injuries that would sideline him for the bigger part of the last 2 seasons. Still, his historic sophomore season was reason enough to convince the Pels to give him a supermax to keep him on the team. As a high-profile player, Zion would get numerous brand deals, his biggest one being his Jordan shoe, which was the second biggest rookie deal given to any player since LeBron James himself. Off the court, he was not clear of controversies either, as numerous adult film stars would come out saying that he was getting with them and promising them the moon. Still, I do hope that Zion can once again get back to the historic levels that he reached before. 10 number 1 picks later, and here we are. Watching the evolution of the types of players drafted at number 1 during each year really puts into perspective how the league has changed. I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is the first video where we have guards, wings, and centers as the number 1 picks, compared to our other number 1 draft videos covering the 1990s and 2000s. And this really translates to the evolution of the NBA, as it is changing into a positionless type of basketball, with Steph Curry really pushing us into this era. But it got me thinking, Steph wasn't even the top player in his draft. How did GMs miss out on him? Arguably, well, not even, the best shooter ever and an NBA legend. And what happened to everyone else that was drafted before him over a decade ago? Well, don't worry, because you know I got all the answers for you in this video right here.